In today's video, we're looking at the most horrific shark attacks ever recorded, from a novice diver's first dive in the Bahamas to an experienced researcher's final moments in South Africa. But first, we begin off Australia's coast, where a diving instructor's routine maintenance dive would turn deadly when equipment failure attracted a massive great white shark. It was July 15, 2016, when the crystal-clear waters off Port Lincoln, South Australia, became the scene of a devastating tragedy. The Neptune Islands region, renowned for its thriving great white shark population, had drawn marine tourism operators for decades. The morning started with calm seas and excellent visibility, conditions that typically made maintenance work routine. Damon West, a 34-year-old certified diving instructor with 12 years of experience, had built his reputation on safety and precision. The former marine biologist turned adventure tourism guide was known throughout the industry for his methodical approach and calm demeanor under pressure. Recently divorced, West had thrown himself into his work, operating cage diving tours that brought tourists face-to-face with one of nature's most formidable predators. His expertise had made him a sought-after guide among international visitors seeking authentic shark encounters. On this particular morning, West was conducting routine maintenance on the cage system during a non-chumming period, accompanied by surface tender Liam Kelly, a 41-year-old deckhand known for his rule-focused approach. Operations coordinator Petra Stevens, 33, remained on deck, managing the tight schedule that kept their business profitable. The maintenance was critical. The cage hinge had malfunctioned twice that week, creating potential safety hazards for upcoming tours. The calm morning conditions seemed perfect for the quick repair work. Great white sharks are apex predators that can reach lengths of 20 feet and weights exceeding 5,000 pounds. These magnificent creatures patrol coastal waters with remarkable efficiency, using a combination of scent, low-frequency vibrations, and close-range electroreception. Their powerful jaws contain rows of serrated teeth, capable of delivering immense bite force, enough to crush bone and tear through dense tissue. During summer months, these predators actively hunt seals around the Neptune Islands, making the area both dangerous and fascinating. West descended to 35 feet wearing full diving gear. The routine inspection should have taken 8 minutes, but West's primary air regulator began free-flowing violently, creating a loud, alarming rush of escaping air. Following emergency protocols, he attempted to partially close the tank valve while switching to his backup regulator. However, the violent free flow combined with the sudden equipment failure triggered a moment of panic, causing West to begin an erratic, faster-than-normal ascent toward the surface. At 18 feet depth, the late afternoon sun created a low angle that cast West's struggling silhouette against the bright surface, the perfect illusion of an injured seal in distress. The erratic movement expelled air bubbles and vibration from his malfunctioning equipment, combined with his position in the known seal corridor where great whites actively hunted, triggered an investigative response from a 15-foot great white patrolling the area. The massive predator approached from below, its powerful tail propelling it upward with explosive force. The shark delivered one devastating bite to West's lower torso and upper thigh, its 3-inch teeth penetrating through the wetsuit and severing the femoral artery along with major abdominal vessels. The encounter lasted only 3 to 4 seconds before the shark immediately disengaged upon recognizing West was not its intended prey. Despite the brief contact, the predator's razor-sharp teeth had caused catastrophic vascular damage. Massive arterial bleeding began immediately as West's life force poured into the surrounding water. The severed femoral artery alone could drain a human body within minutes, and the additional damage to abdominal vessels accelerated the blood loss to critical levels. West's body went into shock as his blood pressure plummeted rapidly. Surface tender Kelly attempted a rescue, quickly pulling West to the surface. West lost consciousness within 2 minutes due to massive blood loss and hypovolemic shock from the severed arteries. Death occurred from rapid exsanguination as his damaged circulatory system could no longer maintain vital organ function. Seawater aspiration during his final moments contributed to his demise, as West's weakened state prevented him from maintaining clear airways. The local marine tourism industry conducted internal safety audits following the incident, with operators examining equipment maintenance procedures and emergency response protocols. West's family released a statement emphasizing his passion for marine conservation and his dedication to safe diving practices. Industry operators implemented enhanced equipment inspection schedules and refined emergency ascent procedures for cage diving operations. The incident sparked internal debates about solo diving procedures and backup safety protocols in shark-populated waters. While West's death marked a devastating loss for the diving community, it would not be the last shark-related fatality to shock the region that year. It was March 22, 2017, and the pristine waters surrounding Nassau in the Bahamas beckoned thousands of tourists seeking underwater adventures, where coral reefs flourished in shallow, protected waters perfect for beginners. Among these hopeful adventurers was Mara Flynn, a 28-year-old marketing executive whose Dublin office seemed a world away from this tropical paradise. Flynn had completed her open water certification just 3 weeks earlier at a local dive shop in Ireland, where cold, murky quarry conditions had left her feeling anxious and uncertain about her underwater skills. Her boyfriend Andrew, an experienced underwater photographer, had spent weeks convincing her to try a tropical reef dive during their romantic getaway. Flynn's certification had been technically successful, but her instructor had noted her obvious anxiety and rapid air consumption during the confined water sessions. The cold Irish waters had done little to build her confidence, and she had barely met the minimum requirements for certification. Despite Andrew's suggestion to start with a simple shallow reef tour, Flynn was determined to conquer her fears and surprise him with her courage by joining the shark encounter excursion. Andrew had expressed serious concerns about Flynn's readiness for such an ambitious dive, given her recent certification and obvious nervousness. However, Flynn's determination seemed unshakable, and the resort's liability waivers had been signed. Her certification, though recent and minimal, technically qualified her for the guided reef shark encounter. Caribbean reef sharks represent one of the ocean's more predictable predators, typically growing to modest lengths of 4 to 6 feet. These sleek hunters patrol coral reefs with methodical precision, their bronze-colored bodies perfectly adapted for life among the coral formations. Unlike their larger cousins, Caribbean reef sharks rarely show aggression toward humans, preferring to maintain distance while investigating potential threats or disturbances. However, these sharks possess the same acute sensory systems as all their relatives, detecting minute electrical fields and responding to unusual vibrations or erratic behavior. When their environment becomes disrupted, or when they encounter panicked movements, they may respond with defensive investigative behavior to assess potential threats. Flynn's descent to 25 feet immediately revealed her inexperience as she struggled to control her buoyancy and breathing rate. The other divers in the group maintained proper formation, but Flynn lagged behind, her movements jerky and unpredictable. Her air consumption had already reached concerning levels when the first shark made its approach, a routine investigative pass that experienced divers would barely notice. The shark's close-range approach triggered Flynn's complete panic response. She abandoned all training protocols, shooting toward the surface in an uncontrolled ascent that violated every safety rule she had learned weeks earlier. The rapid ascent from 25 feet caused pulmonary barotrauma as expanding air in her lungs had nowhere to escape, creating chest pain and breathing difficulties. Combined with panic-induced hyperventilation, Flynn became hypoxic and disoriented as her coordination deteriorated rapidly. Flynn's frantic thrashing and irregular breathing patterns activated the shark's defensive instincts. Interpreting her erratic movements as a potential threat, the predator delivered a defensive investigative bite to her left shoulder. Not a predatory attack, but a warning response to assess the strange, thrashing creature. The bite caused moderate tissue damage and immediate bleeding, though not the devastating wounds associated with true predatory strikes. One additional shark made a cautious pass through the area, drawn by the disturbance and blood in the water, but maintained its distance after determining there was no food source present. The second shark's presence added to the chaos, but did not escalate to aggressive behavior. Flynn's wetsuit tore under the defensive bite as the shark's teeth penetrated through neoprene and flesh. Her regulator remained functional, but her compromised respiratory state from the barotrauma and panic prevented effective breathing. The combination of pulmonary injury, moderate blood loss from her shoulder wound, panic-induced hypoxia, and her inability to control her breathing resulted in Flynn losing consciousness underwater. The dive master's rescue attempt proved challenging, as Flynn had already succumbed to the combination of injuries and drowning before she could be brought to the surface. Her death resulted primarily from drowning complicated by panic and lung injury, rather than the shark bite itself. Bahamian authorities immediately suspended the specific operator's shark diving operations, pending a comprehensive safety review of their procedures and guide protocols. Flynn's family requested privacy while thanking the dive crew for their rescue efforts. The tourism board worked to address safety concerns while emphasizing that the incident involved operator-specific issues rather than systemic problems with shark diving. Soon, another water user would discover that even years of ocean knowledge couldn't protect against nature's most efficient predators when conditions aligned against human survival. It was September 8, 2015. Ballina, New South Wales. Dawn patrol time. The surf looked promising despite the murky conditions that had plagued the coast for days. Flooding from recent storms had turned the normally clear waters into a brown, sediment-filled soup that stretched as far as the eye could see. Local surf reports warned of poor visibility. Most experienced riders stayed home. Stone ignored the warnings. Perfect waves called to him. Jared Stone knew these waters better than most. 19 years old, with over a decade of regular surfing experience. Marine biology student at the local university, ironically studying shark behavior. Stone had grown up on these beaches, learning to read swells and currents before he could properly tie his shoes. His academic work focused on predator patterns along the Australian coast. Professors praised his research on bull shark migration patterns. 3 friends accompanied Stone that morning, all experienced surfers, all concerned about the visibility. The water looked like chocolate milk. You couldn't see your own feet once submerged. Smart money said stay close to shore. Stone disagreed. Big swells were building offshore. Perfect waves waited beyond the murky shallows. His competitive nature overrode caution. Stone craved the adrenaline rush. Risk-taking defined his surfing style. His companions made their choice. Shallow water, safe distance from shore. Stone made his, deep water, big waves, solo session. The fog started rolling in as he paddled out. Weather conditions deteriorated rapidly. Stone pushed deeper into dangerous territory. Isolation became complete. Bull sharks thrive in exactly these conditions. An 8 to 10 foot bull shark built for power and close-range attacks. 500 pounds of evolutionary perfection, broad snouts, crushing jaws, serrated teeth designed for maximum damage. These predators excel where others struggle. Recent research showed increased activity near river mouths after flooding events. Stone's own studies confirmed this pattern. Academic theory met deadly reality. Murky water means nothing to a bull shark. Enhanced sensory systems detect electrical fields from hundreds of meters away. Vibrations travel through water like dinner bells. Recent flooding brings them closer to shore. Displaced prey, easy hunting, perfect storm of circumstances. Stone's own research had documented this exact scenario. Academic knowledge became a deadly reality. Predator and prey converged. Stone paddled hard, 150 meters offshore. Fog thickened rapidly. Visibility dropped to arm's length. The shore disappeared. Friends vanished, alone in brown water with building swells. Stone became completely isolated. Danger surrounded him invisibly. 8 feet of bull shark approached from below. Stone never saw it coming. The attack exploded from the depths. Jaws clamped around his right leg with devastating force. Bone snapped. Muscle tore. Blood erupted. The bite caused catastrophic tissue destruction, severing major arteries and nearly taking the entire lower leg. Stone's surfboard jerked violently. Pain overwhelmed his senses. The shark disengaged immediately after the single devastating bite, disappearing back into the murky depths. Stone screamed. Fog swallowed the sound. He grabbed his board desperately. Blood poured into the water at an alarming rate, dark red mixing with brown sediment. The massive blood loss from the severed arteries sent him into shock rapidly. His academic knowledge couldn't help him now. Theory became a horrific reality. Stone's strength failed quickly. Consciousness faded as blood loss and shock overwhelmed his system. He slipped beneath the surface. Death came from the catastrophic bleeding and trauma, not from any additional attack. The single bite had been enough. Friends heard distant screams through the fog, paddled frantically toward the sound. Thick fog prevented accurate location. Too late. When they reached the approximate area, only blood-stained water remained. They immediately paddled back to shore to raise the alarm. Emergency services arrived within an hour of the initial report. A helicopter was deployed several hours later to conduct aerial searches of the coastline, scanning for any sign of the missing surfer. The search continued throughout the day as authorities coordinated rescue efforts along the beach. Stone's body was recovered the following morning, washed ashore approximately 2 kilometers south of the attack site. The single devastating leg wound told the complete story of what had occurred in those murky waters. The massive tissue damage and arterial severing confirmed the fatal nature of the bull shark encounter. Authorities investigated immediately. Weather conditions, shark activity, safety protocols. Stone's family spoke of his ocean passion, marine biology studies, tragic irony. The predator he studied claimed his life. University colleagues mourned a brilliant young researcher. The academic community was devastated. Beach officials enhanced warning systems. The surfing community mourned a promising researcher. Stone understood the risks. Experience couldn't save him. Local surf shops posted memorial tributes. Warning signs increased. Safety measures improved. But another experienced water user would soon learn that overconfidence could prove equally fatal when facing nature's apex predators in their prime hunting grounds. It was August 14th, 2018, and the calm waters of Monterey Bay stretched endlessly toward the horizon, their surface barely disturbed by the gentle morning breeze. California's central coast had awakened to perfect conditions for spearfishing, with crystal-clear visibility extending down through the kelp forests. Gwen Palmer had been planning this expedition for months, viewing it as the perfect opportunity to bond with her 16-year-old son Tyler, while pursuing her passion for underwater hunting. The 42-year-old marine biology teacher possessed 3 years of spearfishing experience, though most of her previous dives had occurred in shallow, protected areas rarely exceeding 30 feet. Palmer's recent divorce had motivated her to seek new adventures and create lasting memories with Tyler. Palmer's overconfidence stemmed largely from her academic background, rather than practical, deep-water experience. Her extensive theoretical knowledge had created a dangerous sense of security that overshadowed the inherent risks of spearfishing in apex predator territory. She had chosen the Monterey Bay location specifically because of its reputation for large fish populations, dismissing warnings about the area's proximity to seal colonies and great white sharks. Tyler had agreed to document their expedition using an extending pole camera system from a safer depth of 30 feet. The morning began with Palmer's descent to 60 feet, significantly deeper than her previous comfort zone, as she searched for large lingcod near the kelp forest edge. Her enthusiasm for impressing Tyler and proving her expertise overrode the conservative approach that had kept her safe during previous outings. Tyler remained at 30 feet, filming his mother's descent while maintaining a safer distance from the deeper hunting grounds. Great white sharks represent the ocean's most formidable apex predators, with adults commonly reaching 14 to 16 feet in length and weighing between 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. These hunters possess extraordinary sensory capabilities, detecting bioelectrical signals and responding to low-frequency vibrations. Their powerful jaws contain multiple rows of serrated teeth designed to deliver devastating bite forces. Monterey Bay's ecosystem attracts great whites throughout the year, particularly during late summer when seal populations concentrate near offshore rookeries. These predators patrol the kelp forest edges where seals venture to feed, and they respond aggressively to the distress signals of wounded fish. Palmer successfully speared a 25-pound lingcod at approximately 7:30 a.m., securing the struggling fish to her float line as she began her ascent through the kelp canopy. The wounded fish's violent thrashing and blood trail created an irresistible attraction for a 14-foot great white that had been patrolling the area. Palmer's mask-mounted camera recorded her satisfaction with the catch, while Tyler documented her ascent from his position above. The massive predator approached through the kelp forest with calculated precision, its dark silhouette barely visible against the underwater landscape. Palmer remained focused on managing her catch and navigating through the dense kelp fronds, unaware that she had entered the final moments of a predatory sequence targeting her speared fish. The shark's attack came with devastating suddenness, its powerful jaws targeting the struggling lingcod with laser precision. Palmer's left thigh was caught incidentally in the strike, as the massive predator seized the fish she held close to her body. The impact drove Palmer sideways through the water as the shark's teeth penetrated through her wetsuit and deep into the muscle of her upper leg, severing the femoral artery in a catastrophic vascular injury. Palmer's mask-mounted camera recorded sudden violent motion and loss of visual clarity during the 2-second strike. The predator's feeding behavior had been triggered by the combination of blood, struggling prey, and Palmer's proximity to the food source. After securing the lingcod, the shark disengaged and disappeared into the kelp forest, leaving Palmer with life-threatening arterial damage. Tyler witnessed his mother's explosive return to the surface, her screams carrying clearly across the calm water as bright red blood poured from the deep puncture wounds in her leg. He immediately threw a rescue line and began hauling Palmer toward the boat, while attempting to apply emergency protocols he had learned in his lifeguard training. Palmer remained conscious during the rescue, understanding the severity of her injuries even as shock began setting in. Tyler attempted to apply a tourniquet using a dive weight belt, but the high location of the femoral artery damage and the compression from Palmer's wetsuit made effective pressure application nearly impossible. The severed artery continued pumping blood at an alarming rate, despite his desperate efforts. Palmer's blood pressure dropped rapidly as her circulatory system failed to compensate for the arterial hemorrhaging. She lost consciousness during the frantic boat ride back to harbor, her body unable to maintain vital organ function despite Tyler's continued pressure on the wound. California wildlife authorities launched a comprehensive investigation into the incident, examining shark activity patterns and safety protocols for spearfishing in known predator habitats. The footage from both cameras was secured by authorities and never released to the public, respecting the family's privacy. Palmer's family emphasized her passion for marine education and her dedication to sharing ocean knowledge with her students. Local spearfishing communities implemented enhanced safety protocols, including mandatory buddy systems at depth and improved emergency response procedures. While Palmer's overconfidence had proven fatal in California's predator-rich waters, the ocean would soon claim another victim in South African waters, where even experienced researchers could find themselves overwhelmed by circumstances beyond their control. It was November 3, 2017. Dyer Island, South Africa. Research season in full swing. The waters around Gansby had earned their reputation as the great white capital of the world, where massive predators gathered to hunt Cape fur seals. Rocky outcroppings jutted from the ocean surface, creating perfect seal rookeries that attracted thousands of marine mammals during breeding season. Joshua King represented everything admirable about marine research. 26 years old, 8 years studying shark behavior, PhD candidate with an impeccable safety record. King had dedicated his career to understanding great white hunting patterns around Seal Island, spending months documenting predatory sequences that few humans had ever witnessed. King's research station operated on minimal funding during the final weeks of the season. Budget constraints meant reduced support staff when equipment required maintenance. His underwater acoustic monitoring system had been recording feeding behavior for weeks, capturing invaluable data about predator-prey interactions. That morning brought concerning news. The primary acoustic monitor had malfunctioned and sunk to 25 feet near the seal colony's edge. King faced a difficult decision: wait for backup support that might not arrive for days, or conduct a brief retrieval dive with minimal surface support despite elevated predator activity. Time pressure mounted as each day without data represented irreplaceable research opportunities. Sibusiso Mthembu, the experienced deckhand, agreed to serve as surface spotter while expressing serious reservations about the timing. King's project supervisor had radioed earlier, emphasizing the critical importance of the failing equipment. The decision was made to proceed with a quick freediving retrieval rather than full scuba operations, which would require additional safety protocols they couldn't implement with skeleton crew. Great white sharks around Dyer Island represent some of the ocean's largest and most aggressive specimens. Adult females commonly exceed 16 feet in length and weigh over 2,500 pounds. These apex predators have perfected ambush hunting techniques over millions of years, using the island's underwater topography to launch devastating attacks on unsuspecting seals. The shark's sensory systems operate with frightening efficiency. Electroreception allows detection of bioelectrical fields at close range during final approach. When hunting near seal colonies, these predators enter heightened states of awareness, responding aggressively to any movement patterns that suggest vulnerable prey. King entered the water at 8:15 a.m., wearing only a wetsuit and mask, carrying emergency signaling equipment. Seal activity remained high around the island's perimeter, with hundreds of animals entering and exiting the water. The decision to freedive rather than use scuba gear was tactical. Shorter bottom time, less equipment noise, and quicker surface intervals. The malfunctioned monitor lay partially buried in sand and kelp at exactly 25 feet depth. King worked methodically during his breath-hold dives to secure lifting bags and prepare the equipment for surface recovery. His movements remained controlled and deliberate, following protocols developed through years of experience. A 16-foot female great white had been patrolling the deeper channels since dawn, her massive form moving through the water with deceptive grace. The shark's hunting instincts remained dormant as King worked at depth, but his repeated surface intervals and diving patterns began to resemble the behavior of a seal making feeding dives. King began his final ascent at 8:47 a.m., breath-holding while towing the recovered equipment toward the surface. At 12 feet depth, his silhouette against the bright surface created the perfect illusion of a seal returning from a feeding dive with prey. The massive predator's hunting instincts triggered instantly, as King's freediving profile matched exactly what the shark expected to see. The attack came from below with explosive violence that defied comprehension. The massive shark's jaws opened to reveal rows of triangular teeth as she accelerated upward with tremendous force. King's position in midwater provided no escape route as over 2,500 pounds of apex predator struck with devastating precision. The shark's jaws clamped around King's right leg and hip area with bone-crushing pressure, her teeth penetrating deep into his thigh and pelvis. The single catastrophic bite delivered overwhelming force, instantly fracturing his femur and severing the femoral artery, along with other major blood vessels. Her serrated teeth sliced through muscle and bone with surgical precision, causing immediately unsurvivable trauma. The predator released King's body and disappeared into the depths within 3 seconds. King floated motionless near the surface as blood poured from the massive wounds in his leg and hip. His emergency signaling device remained clipped to his weight belt, but the trauma and rapid blood loss prevented him from activating it manually. Mthembu reached King's position within 2 minutes of the attack, hauling his unconscious form aboard the research vessel while radioing emergency services. King died from massive blood loss and traumatic shock before emergency medical services could reach the remote location. The femoral artery damage alone would have been fatal within minutes, even with immediate medical intervention. South African research authorities launched an immediate investigation into safety protocols for solo diving operations in great white habitats. King's family emphasized his dedication to marine conservation and his deep respect for the predators he studied. New regulations prohibited solo water entries in active hunting zones, regardless of equipment emergencies or staffing limitations. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.